Module 1.4, Vertical and Horizontal Shifts. Let's take a look at a few basic graphs that we learned from algebra. One is y is equal to x squared. This is a parabolic shape, and basically it's a big U. The second we're going to look at is y equals the absolute value of x. This is a V-shaped. Notice that in both of these graphs, our center point is 0, 0. In our third graph, we're looking at y equal x cubed. Notice that this graph again crosses 0, 0. And the final graph that we're going to look at is y equals the square root of x. This graph starts at 0, 0. And does like this. Now notice that this graph right here has no domain over here on the left hand side. That's because you can't put in negative numbers for x. Now let's look at some horizontal and vertical shifts. The first we're going to look at is let's look at y equal x squared plus 4. Now notice this plus 4 is added on at the very end. It's not inside of x, but it's just a plus 4 at the end. So this is going to raise this function up 4 steps. So instead of 0, 0, our function is going to start at 0, 4, and it's still our U-shaped. Our next graph, we're going to use y equals the absolute value of x minus 3. Once again, notice that the minus 3 is tapped onto the end, or tapped on outside of the function. It's not inside the square root. Therefore, that's simply going to drop the function 3 steps down, and again, the basic function will go from there. In our next graph, we've got y is equal to x plus 2 quantity cubed. Now notice that now we are dealing with something that's on the inside. Anytime you're dealing with something that's on the inside, it works the opposite of what you normally think it would. So now when it's on the inside, it causes it to have a left or right shift. Okay? And since it's inside, and it works the opposite way. So instead of being right 2, because it's a positive 2, it actually goes left 2. And so notice that our center point will be there, and then this thing will act just like x cubed. The only difference is it's not crossing at 0, 0. In our next graph, we're looking at y is equal to the square root of x minus 1. Now in this case, if we'll look once again, this function is on the inside of the square root of x. And since it's minus 1, that would mean right 1 step. Alright, so we're going to go right 1 step instead of 0, 0, and this function will head like this. Okay? Now let's look at a couple of graphs that have both inside and outside. So let's look at y is equal to x minus 3 quantity squared minus 2. So notice that the minus 2 is on the outside of the function, so that's going to give us a down 2. And notice that the minus 3 is on the inside of the function, so it works the opposite. Instead of left 3, it's going to be right 3. So instead of 0, 0, we're going to go right 3 and down 2, and we'll have our U shaped from there. In the last one, we're going to deal with y equals the square root of x plus 4 minus 1. Now notice that the minus 1 is on the outside, so that's down 1. And notice that the x plus 4 is on the inside, so that is going to be left 4. So we're going to go left from 0, 0, we're going to go left 4 and down 1, and then our square root of x function acts that way. Instead of at 0, 0, it's going to do it at -4, -1.